attracted you to the story of the man who lived twice?
Well, I thought it was absolutely fascinating. When Gary Robson told me about it, and we were working together on Mother Courage, he was writing this play, I was about this meeting with a young John Gielgud and this playwright, Edward Sheldon, who I'd never even heard of. But he'd been very, very famous and hugely thought of and influential in his day. In 1930s New York, it was around about the 1930s when Gielgud, as a young man, met him. And he influenced people like Thornton Wilder and Eugene O'Neill. And what was amazing about this guy was he no longer was writing plays. He was about 50 by this time when Gielgud met him, and he was paralysed from the neck down. He had this strange condition, and he created this kind of theatre in his apartment, and all society and the cultural elite and young playwrights, very famous playwrights, actors, producers, directors would come to him for advice and help, and he apparently helped write a lot of plays at the time, never credited, refused to take credit, and he created this almost this mausoleum for himself, where he was on a sort of plinth-like catafalque, and when he would lie dressed impeccably in a suit, slightly made up, beautifully manicured and attended on, and he was blind as well as paralysed, so he'd have this silk band ribbon thing over his eyes, and people would come and listen and talk to him, and he would seem to have these incredible perceptions about what was going on. He knew everything that was going on in the world at the time. He was highly well informed. He could tell other people what was happening, and it was just really, really fascinating. And he was a huge friend of John Barrymore, who then went to Hollywood at the time of the silent films, and never quite made it into the talkies. And John Barrymore, who was known as Jack, was always asking him, coming back and saying, "Oh, how can you help me? Give me advice. Give me what can I make into a movie?" John Gielgud remembered this meeting they had for him for the rest of his life until he died. I mean, he was so influential. And I just thought this man trapped in this body, in this room that he created into this theatre, and was amazing. It was an amazing story.
As an actor and a director, you've sat on both sides of the casting table. Is there any advice you'd like to share with any young actors auditioning for drama school or one of their first parts?
Well, it's always very difficult to, because it's, casting is such you never know what people are wanting. The part might say, young, physical guy with incredibly mean attitude or something, and then the director might go, somebody else might walk in who's completely different from that, and they might go, actually, that's really interesting. So you can never second guess. You can never second guess what the director or casting director or producer wants. So I think you should always be true to your own instincts about what you think the part is, and don't try and give necessarily what they want. I mean, if you're going for a film or television part, then you have to sort of realise that a lot of these people, I don't want to be critical, but they often just want to see the character there and then. So wear something close to what the character is, resembling it. If you're going for somebody who's a kind of doesn't wear makeup and is a bit dowdy, don't come in all flash and bling, But for theatre, I think you're more imaginative. You've got more, you can be more creative. And hopefully you get a chance to show what you're good at if you're given an audition and you get to read or improvise or something. But I think you just have to be
yourself and believe in yourself. Try not to be too nervous. Very difficult.
Which side of the table do you prefer sitting at, or both equally?
I like sitting on both sides at different times. I like when I'm acting, I love being an actor. When I'm a director, I love being a director. When I'm a director, I don't want to act. When I'm an actor, I don't want to direct. I love being a director for the greater creative responsibility you have, the greater creative vision that you have for the whole piece, for bringing in the designer, for bringing in the sound and music lighting designers, for the casting, that you have a bigger vision of the piece. But as an actor, although as an actor myself, I always have a sort of an idea of the whole piece. I mean, you're only really responsible for your character and your character's position in the piece, and you can't. It's not. You are at the hands of the director. If the director decides that they want to make a forest out of matchsticks and an army out of plastic horses, you got to go with it. Kind of, you might like rubbish, but you got to go with it. So you haven't really got much. So you don't have you're responsible for your part and the other actors that you can communicate with. But it's that is a very creative position as well, because you can do a lot with that.
You played some of the most iconic female roles on stage. Do you see yourself as a role model for younger actresses? Or actors?
I'm an actor, yes, I see myself as a role model for actors. I don't. I suppose as the older I've got, to be honest, I suppose I have now. I'm a bit older. I never used to. People say that to me, but I think I don't see myself as role model so much as that I can be in a position to give experience and advice, and I have I have a good relationship with a lot of young actors and directors who I can help mentor and have a kind of creative collusion with, socially, well, not hugely socially, but in a way that can help. I think as artists, I think the great thing about theatre, and the business that we work in, is that age is not a barrier for working together and creating together. And I think, I don't know if that answered the question, but I think I'm not sure about role model, but
Just a model.
Just a model, yes.